Russian Hammer, Артём Lobov. Welcome to the first time to Submission Radio. It's good to have you.
It's good to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
The pleasure is all ours, Артём. It's been a long time coming. Now, a lot of big things happening that we want to talk to you about. But first, tell us, where are we speaking to you from at the moment?
I'm just at home here in Dublin, Ireland.
I mean, a lot of people that don't know much about your history may not know, but do you typically spend your full training camp at SBG Island, or do you like to move around a little bit in between camps and train at a few different places?
No, I always train at SBG Ireland. I mean, sometimes for certain camps, we went to the location, a few weeks before the fight. But again, it wasn't, I didn't go to like a different gym or anything. We just brought the whole camp over just to get, used to the climate, the time difference or whatnot. So.
Okay, gotcha. So you're a very loyal man. And we obviously notice on Instagram that it's mostly photos of you and your teammates training. We're trying to get a sense of who the real Артём Lobov is. Tell us, what are some of the fun things that you get up to in between sessions? What do you sort of like to do for fun and to unwind a little bit?
Well, now I'm deep into the camp, so I do very little, to be honest. Mostly just train, and then we go get some food with the guys, and then back training again, and then just home, chill with the girlfriend, and that's about it. That's all I do right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, we got to keep the girlfriends happy. We know that from first-hand experience. Speaking of your team, Артём, I mean, a big win for Gunnar Nelson this past weekend at UFC London. A lot of people very, very impressed with his performance. What were your thoughts on what he was able to do to Alan Jouban?
Yeah, I mean, it was nothing surprising for me. I've known Gunny for many years now. This is exactly what he is capable of. He had a little night off against Maya, but I think he is back on track now, and he's going to get that belt sooner rather than later.
Yeah, he's a fascinating guy because he always talks about how while the title is his goal, he's not really in any kind of rush to sort of be propelled into the division. He's happy sort of working in his own development as a fighter. Do you guys sort of talk about that philosophy much? And I'm also wondering, where do you think he belongs in the division? Because he's kind of humble. He never really tells us.
Yeah, I think he belongs at the top. Between him and Conor, they're the guys that, make me believe in talent, because, there's a lot of talk kind of in the gym, some people, think there is such thing as talent, our coach, John Kamna, he doesn't really, but, to me, when I look at him and I look at Conor, that's how I know that, talent does in fact exist, and he's a very talented guy, what he is capable to do on the ground and in the stand-up, is you don't really see that very often, if ever.
And I got to ask you, just while we're on it, we did see you on your Twitter, you retweeted Gunnar Nelson's highlights. Obviously, it was a great win, but you mentioned the current champion, Tyrone Woodley. It seems like you felt that he's doing a bit of complaining and sort of made that heard. What was the motivation behind that?
Oh, that was just, like I said before, I never go out of my way to try and slag someone or put somebody down or anything, that was just a genuine kind of tweet. I've seen him in the media lately, always moaning, saying that, the UFC don't promote him enough, which is not true at all. I mean, the UFC have given him everything they could, they gave him the platform, they shined that spotlight on him, and it was up to him to perform and deliver, and he didn't. They put him on the biggest fight ever in the UFC history in New York on Conor McGregor's card, and then the last time as well, he was the main event on a pay-per-view, and they put a very interesting fight before them, Nurmagomedov versus Tony Ferguson, which would ensure again that more people tune in and watch Tyrone than perform. And once again, he didn't deliver. So it's nothing to do with the UFC, or he even once tried to bring out the racism card, which again, he has no grounds to say that, because John Jones was and still is a huge star. So how come it works for him? It's very simple in this game. Your performances have to speak for themselves. And a lot of people gave me a lot of shit for it, like saying, oh, what have you achieved? Yeah, and I agree. He has achieved more than me, but I wasn't saying it in that light, saying that, oh, I'm better than him. Not at all. I was just referring to the fact that he complained about the UFC before, and I just gave him a genuine advice. This is how you need to promote yourself. If he had gone in and absolutely knocked out Thompson the last fight, he would have been a huge star, but he didn't. So there's no point moaning about anyone else. He only has himself to blame.
Mm-mm. Well, let's get back onto you, Artem, because I want to talk to you about 2016. We remember when we were in New York for your fight at UFC 205, and you mentioned to some media members how you were sort of planning on fighting in Russia after losing two back-to-back fights in the UFC. Take us back to that time. How difficult was it for you to deal with losing back-to-back and sort of the prospect of having to go and fight outside the UFC?
Yeah, of course. I mean, if it was my way, of course, I would want to just stay in the UFC and fight in the UFC because this is where the hardest fights are. This is the Premier League, for MMA. So, of course, I wanted to stay in there. But like I said, and I've given my own advice, never ever moan or beg or do anything. Just go out there and get it. Go and get it. It felt to me that they might cut me after the 2 losses, and I was fine with it. I found the fight. I looked up who is the best guy at featherweight in outside of the UFC, and I came across him. It was Rasul Mirzaev, and I contacted the management of the promotion, and I said, look guys, I want to take on your champion. I want to fight him, and that was it. And then I contacted the UFC saying, look guys, I understand you might want to cut me. That would be a fair decision by you. I'll have no problem with that at all. So I found the fight. So if you are going to cut me, then let me go now so I can do this fight. But then they came back saying, look, we have this fight for you. And obviously, it happened the way it happened. But, I was prepared to, even though I didn't want to, but I was prepared to do whatever was necessary to put a few wins together and get back in there.
Yeah, that's an insane story, how you were so kind of close to the edge. And I feel like there's a lot of successful people like that, Conor McGregor himself, where he, had that period in his life where he wasn't going to training, and now look at him. I'm wondering, though, through adversity, it's a lot of times where you learn a lot about yourself, you build character. What did you learn about yourself during that difficult time? And, we know the guys over at SBG Island are a really close team. Was there anyone in particular that sort of helped you through that difficult time?
To me, that's not a difficult time to me. That was nothing. That was a piece of piss for me. That's not a difficult time. Trust me. Like, there's some people out there that have proper difficult times. That was nothing to me. That's just life. That's the way life works. Nothing ever works from first try. You have to, keep going. You have to, assess the mistakes, fix them, and then move forward. Ask any scientist, that invented anything, important like TV or a plane or anything. Do you think their plane flew the first time they built it? Of course not. It probably crashed millions of times, but they just kept going. They figured out what didn't work, what needed to be fixed, and now look, there's planes flying everywhere. So that's exactly the approach I take. I fix the mistakes, I pick myself back up, I dust myself off, and I keep moving forward.
And I mean, when looking at your fight record, it paints a very deceiving picture. Sure, you had many losses, but it was against some of the best fighters in Europe. And you told Paul Dollery of the 42.ie that your problem in the past was the size of your balls didn't match the size of your skill. You said, I was very green in MMA, but I was still ready to take on anyone. I'm just wondering, Artem, looking back, do you regret not taking smarter fights? Are you happy with the way it sort of played out?
Not at all, and I'm happy with the way, I did it. There was no other way I could have done it. I'm in the sport for a challenge. I want to be, the best fighter. I want to take on the best guys out there. So that's exactly what I've done. I've always looked for the hardest challenges. If I ever had 2 fights presented to me, I always pick the hardest. If somebody offered me an easy fight, I would never accept it. I felt that was necessary for me to progress as a fighter. There's no way you can learn what mistakes you're making or what needs to be fixed if you're taking on easy fights and you're just running through these guys. You need to be in an environment where you're constantly challenged, and that's exactly what I did. I put myself in that environment over and over and over again, and I feel that it has paid off for me.
And that mindset's very admirable, and it's a pretty rare one these days. Do you sort of feel like some fighters in MMA these days, the game's changed and maybe some guys play it maybe a bit too smart, just picking fights that they know that they can win stylistically and sort of, I guess, trying very hard to navigate their career in a certain way?
The game is filled with pussies. You know what I mean? It's filled with them guys. It's, of course, how cool is it? You go in there, you tell all your mates that you're going to be fighting, and you go in and you kill the guy in 10 seconds. It looks great, of course. It's not like, me, I come in there and I'm taking on the best guy in the city or in the area, whatever. And we have a fucking absolute war, and it's 3 rounds, and I'm bet up and I can't even fucking train for, 4 or 5 weeks. Of course, that's the hard road. It's it's not pretty, you know, it's not easy, but you know, I felt that if you want to be a fighter, if you want to be in this sport, then this is the right approach. So hopefully in times it will change. You know, I will keep exposing all those guys that putting their records. I will keep, you know, pointing the finger at them, and I will never have respect for anyone that tries to pad his record. You know, if you want my respect, you gotta earn it, and I always give credit where credit is due.
Well, you're coming off 2 UFC wins going into your fight in April. I mean, what do those wins do for your confidence? Do they help you at all in sort of to this big fight coming in with Cab Swonson? Getting these 2 wins back to back, have they changed anything for you? Sort of explain that for us.
Well, I mean, the fact that you mentioned that I'm fighting Cab Swonson in the main event, I guess that explains itself. I mean, you see what wins in the UFC get you. You know, I'm now going to be the main event. You know, fighting the number 4 guy in the UFC. You know, this is as big as it's ever been for me, and it's almost as big as it gets for anyone at featherweight. So I'm pretty excited about this matchup, and I can't wait to showcase what else I have in there, you know, because obviously those last 2, I had to be a little bit careful, you know, because I was still on thin ice there, you know what I mean, coming off the first 2 losses and then just getting the 1 win and then now only the second. So I feel a lot more confident now. I feel a lot more comfortable. I feel like I can open up a lot more and showcase my skills a lot more. I can take a lot more risks in this fight, and I love taking the risk. Because in Russia we say, if you never risk, you never drink champagne.
and drinking champagne is always nice, so the risk is always good. And this is a fantastic matchup on paper. It's got fireworks written all over it. Talk to us about your thoughts on Cab as an opponent. Obviously, you mentioned that, you know, quote unquote, there's a lot of pussies out there. We feel like he'd sort of fit into the other category. And in terms of the matchup, I mean, some would say that it's another tough challenge. Some detractors believe that, you know, they question whether you've really earned this opportunity. What's your response to the criticisms?
Well, my response to the criticism, you know, you don't have to wonder with me. I will show up. I'm not like them other motherfuckers that coming up with excuses and pulling out of fights. I always show up. If I don't show up to a fight, I am dead. So I will be there, and I will give them a chance to see, you know, what exactly I bring to the table and how I'm going to deal with this next challenge. So, you know, they don't have to wonder for too long. There's only 5 weeks left, and then they get to find out.
You've said in interviews how he's a perfect matchup for you. Sort of talk to us a little bit about that. Why does he make such a great fight for you?
Yeah, like you said yourself, I wouldn't class him as the, you know, pussy. He always brings it, you know, it's, you know, fair play to him. You know, he comes to fight. You know, he's not gonna run around. He's not gonna, you know, hide in that cage. He's not gonna try to grind it. He's gonna bring it, and he's gonna go at it. And so will I. And when we meet in the middle, I can promise you, I'm not taking a step back. I will put that pressure on him, and I'll get him out of there.
And for you, this must be a highlight. What does it feel like being in the main event of the card? I mean, I guess we would normally ask, do you feel any pressure sort of to deliver being the main draw of the night? But it seems like you're reveling in it.
Well, you know, to be honest, because everybody's asking me how about this main event, but so I feel like I should probably be a little bit more excited about it. But to me, it makes no difference. I love to fight, and it doesn't matter to me whether I'm the first fight of the night or the last. The only thing it changes for me is that now I'm going to be fighting later than usual. That's it. To me, I don't care. You know, I just want the hardest challenge, the best fighter I can get, and I just want to fight. It doesn't really matter to me whether it's main event or not.
And I mean,